Welcome. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Alina Bell, and I'm board chair of Franklin Tomorrow. We are so glad that you chose to give us your gift of time today, and we know that you'll have a very informative time with us today. I'd like to first say thank you to Williamson Medical Center. They are our sustaining sponsor, and we could not have opportunities like this without Williamson Medical Center. So let's give them a round of applause. Second, we have Renaissance Bank, and they'll come up in just a couple of moments, but I want to thank them for being our presenting sponsor. They allow us to have Frank Talks each month. So let's say thank you to them. Now, each month that we have Frank Talks, we have a segment called Did You Know? And Miss Nancy Conway is one of our board members, and she's going to come and give you a question, and we have a prize for the answer. Come on over, Miss Nancy.
Okay, can everyone hear me? Yes. Well, before the quiz question, I have a little promo information leading up to it. And of course, we are privileged today to have this wonderful panel to remind us of the exciting things that have taken place in Franklin in 2019 and what to expect for 2020, and we're thrilled over that. And of course, one of the exciting things that happened in Franklin this year is the construction of Harper Square. I'm sure that most of you are familiar with Harper Square. Okay, Mr. Keller's here with us today, and we appreciate that. Harper Square includes that 4-diamond, 119-room Curio Hilton Hotel, 2 restaurants, McGallis Coffee Bar and the $17.99 kitchen and cocktails, 150 leased residences with hotel-style amenities, 15,000 square feet of retail and office restaurant space, and over 3,600 square feet of office space with 591 spaces and a 5-story parking garage. Okay, a lot there. So tell me, your quiz question, what is the dollar amount of this capital investment?
$150 million.
Wrong. We should wrong. Okay.
You should all fill out a number
Who?
up here.
Somebody got another guess?
1.2,
No,
1.5.
correct.
Oh.
$105 million. Congratulations. Okay.
We're close. Get a 5-0.
Just before we have Renaissance Bank come, we have a video for Williamson Medical Center for you to view.
allowing us to be a major sponsor. And we've got the opportunity to meet a lot of folks here, proud to be a sponsor. We hope we're there next year too, Mindy, Mindy, I think we are.
Yes.
What I want to do, I want to say, I want you all to know our staff, that Diane LeBlanc, stand up, Tony have a drawing for an umbrella. It opens up the wrong way. It's one of those news, okay?
That's what I tell
All
you.
the name out for us, and see who wins. It's Tony Honeycutt. Where's Tony?
Thank you again, Harrison. I am honored to have Matt Largen, Jason Golden, Mayor Ken Moore, Eric Stuckey, and Ellie Weston Chen here today. And I'm going to have them introduce themselves as well as have 10 to 12 minutes to just share about their outlook of how well Franklin has done over the year and anything else you'd like to say for Williamson County. Thank you.
No. All right, thank you so much, Elena. I appreciate it. Thanks, everybody, for being here today. My name is Matt Largen. I'm the president and CEO of Williamson Inc., the county's chamber of It's the county's chamber of commerce and economic development organization for Williamson County. So many asked me here to talk about two things. I think you'll get a chance to hear from all the different panelists. Look back at 2019 and then some predictions and look ahead for 2020. Before I do that, this is normally the time where we have our team staff meeting, and I just want to take a minute to actually recognize and thank all our team members who are actually here this morning. So if you all wouldn't mind, since you clap for me, stand up so everybody can see you. Thank you all for the great work you do, not just for this organization, but with Williamson County. And I think what makes me probably the most proud, and I think this is great for you all to know, that every single person on our team is involved in some way in Middle Tennessee, serving on a board or volunteering. And I think that really says it all, that people actually live the mission of the organization. It's not a 9-to-5 job for us. We really do care about what happens to Middle Tennessee and to Williamson County. So thank you all for the great work you do every day, making this a better place for business and families. So I'm going to start first with a little bit of audience interaction. Since 2008, the Nashville region ranked second in the U.S. for job growth. What do you think the other 4 cities were on that list since 08, the highest in job growth in the country? Just throw out some names. I hear Austin. Austin was actually number 1. Charlotte's not on that list. It's surprising to me. Raleigh's not. Oh yeah, Raleigh is. Raleigh's on the list. Raleigh's number 4. Denver, no. Orlando was number 3, and then there's one more.
DC.
No, not DC.
Nashville.
Oh, we got Nashville already. One more. So we got Austin, Nashville, Orlando, Raleigh. There's one more. Dallas. So that's the top 5. So that was just a good look back. There, again, we've seen a lot of dynamism in Nashville, in Williamson County. I think when you think about regional rankings, it goes to the importance of regionalism and how that, for us, being involved with our partners, especially in Nashville, really makes a difference when it comes to trying to recruit the kind of careers that help our friends, family, and neighbors find opportunities and jobs here in Middle Tennessee. For 2019, probably the thing that had the biggest sort of, I guess, impact in terms of media was the Mitsubishi headquarter relocation. For those who had a chance to go to our annual celebration, you got to hear the inside story of how that project actually happened. I think one of the best things about this, and it's a good reminder, while we do recruit companies from across the country, most of the time they're hiring here locally. In fact, Mitsubishi is hiring 80% of their talent pool right here from Middle Tennessee and Williamson County. And one of the first things we did was, when they came to town, we hosted a job fair in our office, so Williamson County residents had first crack at those jobs. So it's always important to keep in mind as you think about growth and companies coming in, they may move from California or New York or from the Midwest, but when they come in, they're coming for a reason, that's to hire the great local talent we have here in Williamson County, Middle Tennessee. Something else that was really important this year were a couple of big expansions, Mars, Pet Care, made a decision to stay in Williamson County and expand their campus and their new location over by Ovation. And of course, Dave Ramsey, Ramsey Solutions, they're up to around 1,000 employees now in that great campus down south in Williamson County. We had 76 ribbon cuttings this year, which is extraordinary. That's more than one week, obviously, and that was up from 44 in 18. So I think it shows that the dynamism extends past just the corporations that move here, and it's also our small business community that's growing as well. Something that I know Jason's going to talk about is, this was a big deal for us because talent and economic development are really closely connected. The innovation, the Entrepreneurship and Innovation Center opened at Williamson County Schools. And what's really important about that, from our standpoint, is the idea actually came from one of the trips that we took to Denver a couple years ago about having something like this in our community for our students. I know Jason will talk more about this as well. And of course, Columbia State, their enrollment continues to grow. That is a really big economic driver for us as well. So looking ahead for 2020, I know we'll have a chance to take questions too a little later, but in today's economy, it really is a consumer-driven economy. You probably saw the numbers on Black Friday and Cyber Monday hitting records. So that's important. Consumer confidence is important, and I think this is a really good indicator for this region. There was a recent 10-county survey that found that 85% of the people who responded to the survey said that the Nashville area economy will be about the same or better in 2020. That's really important. I think people have a lot of pride. They have a lot of, they really expect this economy to continue to be strong. So I think that those numbers are great. You know, the question we always ask, whether it's developers or people in real estate, you know, people in retail, do they see a recession coming? Well, I think people can predict a recession 100% of the time after it happens, right? So we're not going to know until it happens, but I think the great thing about the Nashville economy, being as diverse as it is, manufacturing, distribution, headquarter operations, is we're not immune to it for sure, but I think we're more recession resistant just because of the way the economy's grown and the fact we've had such in-migration over the last decade or so. So we feel pretty good about that. From a pipeline standpoint, our office is currently working 43 active projects. Projects refer to companies that are looking to either relocate or expand in Williamson County. That's high. We're usually about in the mid-30s, and we actually got a new project in on Friday night. So things are busy from that standpoint. We are working again to support the small business community on a center renovation in partnership with the Heritage Foundation at the former Olmore campus, currently Franklin Grove. That will basically be a place where people can come and grow their companies and be good long-term job creators for Williamson County. And you know, I'll just end by talking about the three areas that we call priority areas for this organization based on feedback from our board members. One, it's school funding. We met with all our state delegation about working on creating momentum for a bill in the State House this year that would basically help fund high-growth districts like Williamson County schools. So that's the number one priority for us in this legislative session. Kelly McDowell will be on the Hill again pushing for that, and we'll work very closely with Jason in his office. I'm sure we'll talk about that as well. So that's a big deal for us. Again, economic development, talent development are linked these days. Another thing that we're working on is around attainable housing with the city of Franklin. They may address this as well, essentially supporting a pilot program that would incentivize developers to build attainable housing units around $300,000 and below in the city of Franklin. And finally, the other scope of work is around transportation solutions. We hear from it all the time around that. This new initiative is blessed by the governor. It's really driven by the mayor's caucus, and I'll again defer to Mayor Moore to talk more about that, because that's really important for us. And finally, I'll just say too, as I close, it's really interesting the way this economy has kind of moved over the last, I'd say, probably decade. It used to be that real estate was the most important thing for a company when they looked to relocate. Where's that building? Where's that site? Now it's really about the workforce. Job creators are creating jobs where workforce exists. It's through in-migration, talent retention, and education pipeline. And the talent retention and pipeline piece are really the more stable and predictable facets of economic development. And that's where our focus is. That's why we work so closely with the schools, because we know that's the workforce of the future. We also know that's the reason why people move here, is because we have great schools in Williamson County. And again, and with that, let me turn it over to Jason Golden. Thank you for the time. We'll take many questions afterwards, but Jason, love to hear your perspective on 19 or 20.
Thank you, Matt. My name is Jason Golden. I'm the superintendent of schools for Williamson County Schools, obviously, and I really appreciate you all having me. One of the things that I know Franklin Tomorrow focuses on, of course, is where we are now and where we're going to go. So I'm going to hit a few points, and I can't resist, but I have to hit some brag points. So we have actually spent some time at the Education Summit talking about some of these in more detail. But our ACT score last year was a 25.3, and that's the highest school district in the state that doesn't just have a single high school. Actually, 2 or 3 of our high schools outperformed that district, who happened to have the highest. And so that particular district would have been comparable to our school leaders in ACT. And we do focus on ACT as part of our strategic plan because it makes a big difference for students in scholarships. And so that is one of our ultimate goals in multiple points in our strategic plan. We were also designated by the state as an exemplary school district last year. That's the highest designation in Tennessee. You see the numbers right there, the percentages of schools that get that designation. And 28 of our 48 schools were classified as reward schools, which is again the highest designation. We're very proud of that. The state goes through a designation process, and what we typically do is celebrate that but move on. Because it's the state standards and how we meet those. It's very important to us, but it's important to us also to go on beyond that. We actually have a consortium of similar school districts that we call the Mid-States Benchmarking Consortium, and we benchmark ourselves against similar districts across the country, from Metro Phoenix to Metro Atlanta to Metro Chicago and everywhere in between. I've got 10 minutes, I'm not going to walk through every one of those districts, but some of you may have actually lived in those districts and come here because you did your own research and recognized that our community has those similar values to those areas. Matt works with that on a regular basis, benchmarking ourselves against others, and we believe that we need to benchmark ourselves nationally as well, even though the bulk of our evaluation system is at the state level. So WCS accomplishments so far, I set that up ahead of my speaking just a little bit so you can look at that. We have a National Blue Ribbon School, Crockett Elementary. We are so excited about that. Carol, if I'm not mistaken, that's our 10th designation as a National Blue Ribbon School. I told our elementary school students, I graduated high school in Metro Atlanta, and in 1985, my high school was designated a National Blue Ribbon School. And I drove by a couple of years ago. They've grown and rebuilt the building, but they still have that designation out on the front for 1985. We've had 10 since then, so I want you all to know that we continue to push that. We actually have another nominee for this coming year. I'm not free to talk about that beyond just we have another nominee for that. That is a big deal in education, getting that blue ribbon. You see this, 22 students with a perfect ACT composite. Woodland Middle School is a great example of a national winner in a debate association. If you look at our board meetings, before our board meeting, or at the early stages of our board meeting every month, Carol Birdsong, our communications director, mentions our state and national champions, whether it's a teacher, a student, a team, academic competition. It's pretty neat to see that every month that we are winning at the state level and winning at the national level, and this is just one example of that. And you see those other numbers on our all-state choirs in the arts. I want to mention also our EIC, since Matt mentioned it, our Entrepreneurship and Innovation Center. That's technically a career technical program, but it's innovative. It's opening the door for students who want to do their own business, to find ways to educate themselves on what it takes to run their own business. Many of you have been through that in your lives, and so what we're trying to do with our students is give them a grasp of the scope of what it takes to run your own business. I've done it myself, and not taking the classes, but had to live it, starting my own business, and it's a really interesting program for those students to get a grasp of that. One thing that we think is special about that program is the vast majority of those students who chose that EIC program, 130 students its very first year, never took a career technical class. So we opened the door to students who thought they didn't have interest in a career path but they recognize through this program that there is something there. We have found that our career tech programs actually open the door for high-performing students back at that ACT slide that I told you, because it's a broader scope of experience. They develop some wisdom that high school students might not ordinarily have. So we're very proud of that. We recently, just a couple of weeks ago, signed an MOU with Columbia State. Columbia State got a grant for multiple hundreds of thousands of dollars to create a mobile classroom that we're using for cybersecurity purposes for another career tech program. Carol's already telling me I got 4 minutes. I hate this because I want to spend 45 minutes. 4.5, Matt says 4.5. So, all right, so let's talk about growth, because that's what I'm going to flash you there some athletic accomplishments. We're going to have more of those over the course of the year, so I won't dwell on those. District growth. I don't know if you can see all these numbers, but I think it's important to point out the 5-year trend. I gave you 5 years there. We are averaging growth of 1,339 students per year for the last 5 years. So I put a little benchmark there. Our elementary schools' capacities as we build these are 890. So if you're growing by 1,339 on average a year, and your elementary schools are 890, what does that mean? That means we have to grow by more than one school a year. Now, we're trying to do this efficiently. We're adding on to a lot of our high schools. Those of you who are in the Independence area know we've added on. We've added on 400 seats at Franklin. We're going through the process in all our schools, Page High School, Brentwood High School, to expand our capacities. And it is because of growth, we believe that from an efficiency standpoint, adding on to the schools where we can is important for being good stewards of our tax money. But the reality is we are going to have to grow new schools. So what's ahead for WCS? Continued growth. Even during our last recession, we grew. Our growth was slower, but we grew. While other systems across the country had stagnated, our growth the curve just got a little flatter, and it's continuing to pop back up. 8 new schools in the next 5 years. That's what those numbers show for us. That does not even include the Brentwood Middle School replacement. That building's ready to be replaced. 2 high school expansions I already mentioned. And one of the things I also want to mention with the City of Franklin, the next middle school that's going to open is on Henpeck Lane. We're in the process of naming it. We did a really amazing thing in conjunction with the City of Franklin, and thank you all for this. We went through a joint project to run the sewer line to that. Now, you laugh sometimes, think about, oh, sewer? Sewer, for us, when we see a sewer line, we know that's where growth's going. We could not have built that building on that property on Henpeck Lane that we've owned for more than 20 years had it not been for the City of Franklin working with us. So we split the cost. Franklin's doing the work. That middle school is scheduled to open on Henpeck Lane this coming fall. So thank you for that. I feel like I need to gush about that because it's a really neat joint project between municipalities who really technically have no responsibility to schools, but step up to serve because we recognize this entire community. This entire community is all on the same team and all on the same page. So I want to thank you all as I close for your supporting our schools, for supporting our teachers. Last year we got a significant pay raise for our teachers. It's a good start. We have more work to do to make sure our teachers have a livable wage in this community. But boy, what you did for us has been very much appreciated. So thank you.
Wow. Finished up in less than 10. I'm impressed. You got a lot to brag about.
You need that.
Yes. Yeah, I'm done. It was really good to see you. Kim Moore, Mayor of the City of Franklin, and it's great to be here. And what a great audience we had today. Thanks for the invitation to talk a little bit. I think I'll start out kind of with the big picture. First is that we continue to see that by 2040, this area is going to continue to grow and add significant numbers of people and jobs. Those are solid predictions based on the University of Tennessee and other groups that study that type of thing. I hear a lot of comments about growth in our city, and we are growing rapidly, and the whole region continues to grow rapidly. We just happen to be one of the leaders in the growth. But first of all, let me just say, and I think when Eric speaks, you'll see, that we've been planning for a long time how to take care of the growth that's affecting our city. And we've invested significant money in the last 5 years on infrastructure, and the next 5 years it's also going to be a significant number. And we have a plan. We have the means to pay for it. And so we're implementing those plans as we go along. So I hope that tees Eric up on what he's going to say. He's got me. So when I look back at 2019, I think there have been a lot of significant things that have contributed and happened in our community. And kind of one of the taglines I always use is balancing preservation and growth. But before I get to some of those things, there was an election. Our board remained intact. We have a very solid board. It was a competitive election. We wish more people had voted, but the election's over and we're ready to get back to work. When I think of the top things, though, that have happened in our community, probably the number one has to be that we broke ground on Machatcher Parkway, and they're making significant progress on that. We also, at the same time, this year, started our water reclamation facility. It's a $132 million project, which is going to help us as far as our growth moving forward. An important piece of property downtown that Matt mentioned was the O'Moore College campus. And we had a lot of heartburn and anxiety over that property because it could have been developed into housing, and I applaud the Heritage Foundation. I don't know if anybody's here from the Heritage Foundation today, but the fact that they were able to buy this property and they have a great vision for what it's going to be in the future. We are currently working on our new zoning ordinance. It's had 2 readings and it's been approved and by unanimous vote of our board. This is an important document to continue to determine how we grow in the future. I think about the Fuller story. This is a significant thing for our community, that our community came together and embraced our history and talked about it. I think that just speaks volumes to who we are as a community and why we are such a special place. Then we're talking about the investment in downtown Franklin. We've always talked about our Main Street and how great it was, but it's really short. And the fact that we're now starting to see development east of the square is really an important step to continue to grow our downtown area, which is extremely important. We're still a AAA rated credit. We've been reconfirmed on that this year, and so that's great that we're going to move forward on that. I think we've seen some significant things occur in housing. We've struggled with this issue. We're excited that the chamber is on board and a lot of other people, but we see continued great progress in Franklin Housing Authority and what they're doing. We've been able to help them some financially from a city standpoint, and they continue to, they have the property to develop, and we continue to work with them to make that significant impact. Another project that many of you may not be familiar with is Wood Duck Court. Wood Duck Court is over behind Walker Chevrolet, and it's going to be providing workforce and affordable housing units for sale. Stephen Murray and Community Housing Partners have brought that forward, and that's going to make a significant impact on the housing issue. Transportation. And Eric will probably talk more specifically about some of our local projects, but I'd like to kind of give more of an overview from a regional standpoint. We've been making progress regionally with things that we've been doing for some time, but we just still haven't had that bellwether project that I think everybody really wants, whether it's a bullet train or whatever it may be. We're not ready for the bullet train. not in Franklin nor in Nashville, either one. But we continue to work toward that. You know, I think one of the most significant things that happened recently is the fact that our board said no to scooters. And so, well, let me tell you why that's significant. It's not because you don't want to see them lay on the sidewalk, but that's the fact that I think our board now has said scooters is not the solution for us. We need another solution. So I applaud the board, and I think that the area that we're looking at moving forward has to be something that moves people in the Cool Springs area better. I look forward to the Franklin Transit Authority this year bringing us something that is going to change Cool Springs and the ability to get around there. I think another significant thing is the fact that our governor is now talking about transportation. You know, not to knock Governor Haslam, who's a great governor, but he didn't, other than Improve Act, he wasn't really supporting and trying to move forward transportation solutions in our area. Governor Lee recognizes that this region is the economic generator for the state, and he is on board to find some solutions. I applaud him that he's now talking about not the Improve Act, which we all know had a specific number of projects that were supposed to be done in 12 years, but it's actually going to be 20. But he's saying, what's after the Improve Act? And I think that's far-reaching. In Nashville, they've hired a transportation expert, Faye DeMassimo, who brings lots of experience from an area I won't mention because we always say we don't want to be them. But she has a great history of success, and I applaud Mayor Cooper, who we work with very closely on this idea. So, you know, things are starting to line up in a much better fashion, in my opinion. One of the areas I've been very disappointed in is that most of the studies and plans that have been done have not really focused on the southern corridor or our corridor. We're right in the middle of a southern corridor study looking at 31, I-65, and the CSX line. And this study is delayed coming to us as far as the report, but I'm confident based on my conversation recently that that's going to be coming sometime next year. We continue to struggle with a good park and ride location. We're looking and studying where we can put a park and ride. I think we have a couple of great options now that we can look at, and that's going to help us moving forward as far as other transportation solutions. We're right now getting ready to be part of the regional transportation plan that the Greater Nashville Regional Council is performing. I see my time is running out, and I want to mention that there is an important census occurring in 2020. Why should I care about the census? Well, it means revenue for the city, $120 or so for every person that we're able to count. So it's extremely important that we make sure that everybody participates in the census. Our staff will be working. I know we have some, if you're part of the census, raise your hand. Usually they're here. But anyway, that's an important thing that's going to be happening next year. So I'm going to yield my time now to, sounds like TV, doesn't it? Derek.
Thank you, Mayor. And I'll just touch on a few things that you referenced, and then just a couple other points I'd like to make, and then we'll hand it off to Ellie. I won't take my full allotted time. No. So, Mayor touched on a couple things, key things in terms of investment. I'll just give you a couple numbers to give you some context of what we're looking at. In the last 5 years, we've invested probably around $170 million in infrastructure. That amount's going to be doubled in the next 5 when you look at the magnitude of what's going on. Transportation, we talked about some of the water and wastewater infrastructure. But so there's significant investment there. The board this past year did a 10-year investment plan, and that's about $280 million. Less than half of that is funded by debt. The rest of it's coming from funds we collect related to development itself and other sources that help us leverage those dollars. So those are, again, important investments in infrastructure. You know, the big thing we hear about, the question we hear about all the time is the growth question and how you manage that. The mayor touched on that. And I really look at it as 3 prongs to how you effectively manage it. You have plans that help guide where development happens, helps guide where investment happens to support it. So you have a plan. Do you have impact fees or ways to collect dollars on the coming in that help support that growth and the development of those plans? And then finally, do you have regulations in place that ensure that quality development occurs in your community? And so, you know, it's going to happen. Do you direct it the right way? And so I think that's the challenge we all have. That's why we have the plans we have. That's why we have the impact fee and development fees that we have. I applaud the county for developing those on the school side. Franklin has the most developed impact fee structure of any city in the state of Tennessee by far. It's more expensive, yes, but it's also more comprehensive. It touches on roads, streets, parks, water, sewer, now schools. That's important. And that's how you manage it and have it help pay its way as you work through and implement those plans. You know, at the end of the day, we're in the quality of life business. In fact, I got a text from a good friend of mine on Thursday night. He had seen a little video clip on Twitter about our ribbon cutting for the mountain bike trail. He said, "Man, do you do any real work?" I was like, well, I said, hey, we're in the quality of life business, so what can I say? But we do real work, but we are about quality of life, and we get that. That's what has brought people here. That's what brings people here. And having those plans and looking at and understanding what needs to happen to preserve it and build on it. Take the best of what growth and new investment brings and help it enhance quality of life is what we need to do. And that's why we have the kind of plans we do in parks and in our streets and infrastructure elements as well, because those are key, those are critical. You know, so as I look forward, that's what it's about. We've already got a joint meeting planned in January with Board of Mayor and Aldermen and County Commissioners to talk about some things, especially as it relates to land use. We see there's actually a lot of compatibility between the way we're both viewing land use. We just got to make sure we're following those guidelines so that the right growth or the right development happens in the right places. And that we see how those things connect and that we work those plans. You know, the collaboration piece is really what's special about Williamson County. I've worked in probably, 3 or 4 other regions, and it's really special here because people get it. And Jason talked about the sewer line. That's a small thing, but we're trying to do that on everything. Public safety, we have a joint radio project now that we've done that covers the whole county and actually connects with Nashville and Metro. So it's one radio system. That may not mean a lot to you, but it means a lot to you when we have a disaster and we need to respond either to something somewhere else in the region or the people come here. We have one system that supports us. You know, we've done an economic development. I think Matt will tell you one of the difference makers we have is that we speak with one voice when people come to us. It's not, well, what's the city going to say? What's the county going to say? What's the sewer district or the school district or whatever? What are they going to say? They get one answer. They have one focal point, and we try to help them get to the answer that's going to help them make a decision. It may not be to be here. It may be to be here, but we want to be effective, efficient, and guess what? When you get here, that's how we work too. And so I think that's a critically important thing of what we do. You know, we have a great team at the City of Franklin. We have 750 employees that are great in what they do. They're dedicated to serving, and that's the folks that develop these plans and help us serve every day. And I just want to express how grateful I am for what they do and how pleased I am to be part of that team serving all of you. And it really is heartening to see a group like this come out on a Monday morning when you don't have to be here. You can do a lot of other things to come here and invest in your community, hear what's going on. I don't take that for granted. That doesn't happen everywhere. And you know, that's part of what's special here is people's engagement. So thank you all for that. And think about how you're going to invest in your community in 2020. what volunteerism do you want to do at a school, in a nonprofit? How do you express gratitude back to your community? Just think about that. So, let me pass it on to Ellie.
Thanks. Okay, so I'm going to go through these slides pretty quickly. One, because I want to stay in time, but two, I've got three of the four panelists up here are on my board, and I've gotten so much grief this morning for having slides, but I have come prepared, I'll tell you that. So, I know, you guys were prepared, I just have visuals with my preparation. That's right. I'm Ellie Westminton, I'm the president and CEO of the Williamson County Convention and Visitors Bureau. And I just thought I'd start with our mission statement in case you're not exactly sure what a CVB is or what we're supposed to be doing. But we are here to positively impact the local economy by increasing travel-related spending. So what that means is when these visitors come in, they spend a lot of money. In 2018, we had 1.72 million visitors into our county. And into Franklin, our goal is to have 2 million by the end of 20. So Eric asked you to go out and look in your hearts to volunteer, and I'm asking you to go out and invite everybody you know to come in Franklin and see us in 2020 so we can hit that goal. But when those visitors are in town, on average, they're spending $1.31 million a day in our community. And what that does for each and every one of us that lives here is it saves you $523 a year on your own taxes. Because the money they're paying when they buy things, when they stay in hotels, when they eat in restaurants, is helping us save money on our own taxes. So 18-19 was a good year for us. We opened 4 new hotels, plus we opened the Harpeth. And I know Nancy gave you a great overview of the Harpeth, but I'll tell you from a CVB perspective how important that hotel is to us. Because it lets us go and invest in markets that we've never invested in because people are looking for a boutique property that they can stay in. It's our first hotel downtown in about 60 years. So it's a really big thing for that hotel to open for us. You can see the rest of the list there, but as I was reviewing this morning, I feel horrible that we were remiss on putting a fuller story up there because those historical markers that we put around the square are so important, not only to us and everybody that lives here, but for those visitors that are coming in. For us to say we're going to tell our whole story, the good, the bad, and the ugly, is very important. So I apologize that did not make that list.
And we still have a statue to build.
Yes.
So if you're looking for some, oh, sorry.
I
And Ellie will be talking about that.
Anyway, that's exactly
Let's
right.
go with teaser in there.
That's right. So where are we going in 1920? We have a lot going on in 1920. McEwen Northside will open with Perry's Steakhouse, Jenny's Ice Cream, and Shake Shack. Olivia Olive Oil is going to move to Harper Square. American Tap House, which is formerly Puckett's Boathouse, is going to rebrand and reopen, so you can see all the great stuff happening there. If you've driven downtown lately, you can see that the old Dotson's property is up out of the ground. The brick is getting put on. I'm not sure what's going in there, but the bottom level I've been told is going to be retail and restaurants. So again, as Mayor Moore mentioned, having that happen down to First Avenue is so important because it really, from a visitor perspective, it expands our footprint. And what I think is really important is not only expanding our footprint, but we have awesome galleries and shops off of Main Street. So I'm hoping people even go more, explore down 3rd Avenue, down 2nd Avenue, go to Gallery 202, and so forth. Entertainment, we got a lot of stuff happening here. Greystone Quarry will open next June, 7,500 seat amphitheater out in Thompson Station. Leapers Fork Winery will open. We will add them to our Masters and Makers Trail, which that's a trail that encompasses our distilleries, our wineries, and our brewery. Franklin Grove was mentioned. TOA Sports Performance Center, the former A-Game, is up and running. And if you haven't seen it, there's a new virtual reality experience that you can do there. It's incredible. So, during the holidays, if you got a lot of family visiting and it's time to get out of the house, take them over and do some of that. And then I want to mention Songwriter Week. So the Tennessee Department of Tourism in February is doing a Songwriter Week, and they're doing it all across the state. We're going to be one of 6 finalist cities where 20 finalists will come into Franklin to Puckett's on February 23rd. So if you're out and about and you want to hear some really great songwriters, we've got some fun judges lined up for that, but that's going to be an exciting time there. And then hotel development. We have a lot more hotels being built, so you can see the list up here. These are just the ones that are supposed to open in 2020. Our list is much longer than this, that's in the pipeline. But when these 6 opens, we'll add 840 more rooms into our community as far as hotels are concerned. Trails and connectivity, yay, we're getting a factory, sidewalk to the factory, which I'm thrilled about because it just kills me when I see people trying to walk on the little side there. And we're getting a sidewalk out to Lewisburg Pike. And I think this goes, or out to Carton, down Lewisburg Pike. And I think this goes back to what a lot of folks up here have mentioned, which is that quality of life. So I'm here talking about visitors, right? That's my job, is to bring visitors in here. But anything that we do and we open or we build, it's good for the resident too. So as a resident, I'm thrilled about these things. As somebody who's supposed to bring visitors in, I'm thrilled about these things. So it really works across the board. And then history and preservation. Since this hasn't been mentioned yet today, I'll go ahead and mention it. But there is a big fundraising effort happening right now to raise money to build or to erect a statue of a U.S. Color Troop right on the square. And if you know, it is the season of giving, so if you find it in your heart and you want to give, the Battle of Franklin Trust is taking those donations. But that is really such an important step for what we're doing. The Friends of Franklin Park are working real hard to save the Hayes House out at Harlansdale Park. And what we learned recently is that the Hayes House actually dates back to the Lilly family, which are the Silos, the Lilly Flower Company. So that house has a lot of history here in Franklin besides being at Harlansdale Park. And then next year's the 100th anniversary of the 19th Amendment. So you'll see Visit Franklin doing quite a bit around that because that's an important milestone for women everywhere in the United States. So you can follow us. If you want to see what's going on in the city, we try to do the best job we can do keeping up on what's the activities, what's happening, what can you go do. I got family in town, how do I get them out of my house, any of that. So these are all of our handles for our social media. And then the last page is holiday happenings. This city does not lack for holiday happenings by any means. I'm usually so exhausted by December 26th that, but it's really exciting because a couple of different things here. One, Oprah Magazine named us one of the 19th best places in the world for Christmas. So we're seeing a lot of Oprah fans, which is awesome. What I will tell you is if you're out and I know how easy it is to stay at home on your computer and get on Amazon.com and order that gift, but when you shop in Franklin at an independent local store, 43% of those taxes stay here. That's collected, will stay here. So get out, enjoy some holiday shopping, and move around a little bit. And then I just like to thank my staff because one, they're gonna yell at me if I don't when we get back to the office. But I've got a couple staff here and I tell you, this is a committed, really passionate staff. And yeah, we're talking about visitors every day. How do we get more visitors here tomorrow than we got here yesterday? But we're really concerned about the resident too. We've seen other cities that have not done the planning well, like Eric was talking about, where visitors have overrun the city and the residents become miserable. We talk a lot in our office about, well, how's that gonna work and how does that work with the resident and can they still get around and so forth. And we meet a lot with pretty much everybody up here to make sure that happens. But yeah, it's a fun list. If you go to visitfranklin.com, this is the partial list. There's a whole list of everything that's happening during the holidays this year. But come out and see us. We have a visitor center on 4th Avenue right across the street from the Mercantile. So if you need maps or event listings or visitor guides or whatever that is, come on in and see us. So that's it for me.
We're doing wonderful on time. Let's have some questions. Do you have a question?
Yes, a question for Jason. My name is Virgil Hawker-Smith. Jason, would you comment on school security issues?
Sure, the question was related to school security issues. One of the things I talked about at our education summit that Matt and his staff put on a few months ago was Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and safety is right at that fundamental, critical point. One of the things that the county mayor, Mayor Anderson, and the county commission, and Greg Lawrence, one of the county commissioners is here today, committed to was making sure we have an SRO in every building. We've actually expanded SROs, and school resource officers, deputy sheriffs, They made a commitment not just to us, but also to Franklin Special School District. So there is one law enforcement organization who coordinates the school security for every school, every public school in this county. And one of the things I often say is there's no substitute for people. So having somebody in that school is our threshold, critically important element of school security. At our larger high schools, we actually have two. They also have a substitute program, right? Because if somebody happens to be out that day, you really have to staff beyond that to make sure that there's somebody there all the time. So that's the fundamental part to me in my mind, having somebody who knows the students, who knows what's going on in the campus, sees something that's unusual, and has that relationship building capacity. We've done other things too. We've done some capital work. We've benchmarked safety questions off those other districts that I mentioned in my talk earlier. So when we're building buildings, we were improving the capital structure of our buildings for entrance purposes. Years ago, if you think about an old building, you would walk in the building and you have access to the entire hallway, right? You can get anywhere in the building when you first walk in. We've been retrofitting some of our old buildings so that there's a double entrance, goes through the safety process to get into the buildings. We have badging systems. We do a tier 3 structure for our school volunteers, where every one of our school volunteers who has the potential to be one-on-one with a child is actually fingerprinted. And those parents and grandparents and volunteers actually choose to pay for that so that they can commit to us. We have about 20,000 tier 3 volunteers who've chosen to go through that process for that safety element of that. We have some safety programs within the Capitol that we don't talk about publicly. Just some additional layers of safety for that, but that is a fundamental issue for us. It takes constant attention, and I'm just touching on some examples. We do have cameras on our campuses. That's a constant capital need to improve cameras and find spots for that. There's also a mental health aspect to this, to school security. There's only so much you can do to protect from people from the outside, but you also have to find ways to help your students make good decisions. Across the nation, and this is no different for us, or no different from Middle Tennessee, student mental health is a growing issue. Part of what I have seen anecdotally is so often when parents are struggling with a mental health issue with their child, they don't know where to go. And so we actually have social workers who help find resources for those students, and we are actually, school systems are more and more getting involved in mental health, again, to help students make good decisions and to put the tools in the parents' hands so that they can find ways to serve their children to improve safety. That's a really skimming the surface answer, but it's a deep conversation.
Thank you. One more question.
This is for the mayor or Eric. What's happening on the painting of the tower out at the factory?
Eric mentioned he was looking for volunteers.
My last conversation with the factory was that they were getting bids as far as painting the water tower. It's an iconic structure, and we want to make sure that remains.
I'm not going to talk about the tower, but I'll add something on safety. Every one of our police officers trained over this summer in a school. We also, every one of our officers has crisis intervention training, not just for students, but for the community overall. So the mental health issues, the safety and security issues are top of line for us as well. And again, I mentioned the collaboration. We coordinate exercises, efforts to be able to be prepared. Those video feeds can go live into every police vehicle in the city of Franklin. So the cameras that Jason talked about, we have that capability as well. So we work hard to be prepared and collaborate on that effort as well. That's top priority for all of us too.
If I could just add one quick thing on that. We're so project focused, talking about all the projects we're doing in Franklin, all the infrastructure needs, but we do have other needs in our community, and I'm glad that you brought up the mental health issue. We've been working now for about 3 months with a blue ribbon panel, I call it, of people to help us
figure out how we can message our community and train our community better on mental health issues, particularly suicide. We have a high suicide rate, particularly among our teens. So we'll be seeing something come forward probably about May as far as what we're trying to present to the community.
Thank you all so much. Let's give them a round of applause. Franklin Tomorrow's mission is to engage the community, foster collaboration, and advocate for a shared vision of Franklin. And we are so grateful you chose to be here with us. A couple of announcements before we end right at 10:30. Our next Frank Talks, if you want to mark your calendars, is January the 13th, 2020. And our next Breakfast with the Mayors, that's something that Franklin Tomorrow also is one of our signature events, will be at Rolling Hills Community Church on January the 28th. Thank you again for being here. I want to acknowledge Mindy Tate, who was supposed to be at a meeting today that was canceled, but she is our executive director. And if I have just a moment, I'd love to say thank you to our board of directors. If any of our board of directors are here, will you just stand so we can acknowledge you? Thank you again for being here. I hope you have a Merry Christmas. And I want to echo one thing that was mentioned. Let's look in our hearts and see how we can not just enjoy the fruits of what Franklin is all about, but find a way that we can get involved and be engaged in the community. Thank you very much.